Hey everyone, this is Jon Mitchell. I've got a great video for you today. We are going to go over the specific labs that I think are essential for anyone who's trying to conceive, who is currently pregnant, or has recently given birth. So I think it's not super well known, but there are a lot of people out there that are struggling with conceiving or maintaining a pregnancy. And there's a lot of guilt and shame behind this, so people aren't really talking about it in public. But when I talk to clients, there's a lot of people who are struggling with this. And I think that they are led down the medical rabbit hole a little bit too soon, going with things like really expensive procedures like IVF and certain prescription medications, when what they could be doing is working on things further upstream biochemically and get the same results. So the first thing, there's a lot of things that go into creating a child, but one big one is your nutritional status and biochemical status. And that's where I think it's really important to get the right labs. And these are just not labs that are ordered by your typical doctor. They don't know how to interpret them. They're not taught about these in school, but they're absolutely essential in my eyes if you really want to maintain a pregnancy. So what these labs will show us are kind of like the building blocks of building a child: the vitamins, the minerals, the amino acids, the fatty acids. Those are all the components. It's like building a house. You need to have the right components to build a house, and it's the same thing with a child. So if you are deficient in certain things, you're going to have trouble maintaining a pregnancy. So mainstream medicine is good. They know a few things like folate, obviously, for neural tube defects, but there's much, much more to it than that. And that's why I really like this test. So what we're going to do is go over this. This is actually one that my wife we had done when she was about 4 months pregnant, and we spent months and months prior to conceiving getting her ready, eating a really nutrient dense diet, taking out a lot of toxins, buying like a real high quality water filter, air filter. We were doing targeted supplementation based off of past labs. And even then, we found a lot of deficiencies at this 4-month mark. So we were really glad that we did it, but it kind of shows why these labs are so essential, because everyone's going to be different based off of their individual biochemical makeup, their lifestyle, what they're eating, their stress levels, where they live. All those components together are going to affect the way that your body works. So a lot of the labs that we're going to look at here are called organic acids. So they're like biochemical intermediates. So they show us how well certain biochemical systems are working. And based off of that, that will give us an indication if there are certain deficiencies in certain vitamins and minerals and whatnot. So one thing off the bat that I noticed is this carbohydrate metabolism, these mitochondrial markers. So what this shows is that my wife at the time was a slow oxidizer. She was not breaking down complex foods like proteins and fats very well, and what she really needed was a little bit more carbohydrate, which is kind of the opposite of what we were doing. So I was really glad that we were able to see this and fix that issue. Some other things that we want to look at with these vitamin markers: ketoadipix, shown as B1, is deficient for certain. This was a folate marker here, Figlu. It's borderline, and we were supplementing with a methylated folate and still a little bit, not optimal. So it showed us we needed to pump that up a little bit. B2 from glutaric acid. MMA shows us a really big deficiency in B12. So as you can see, even though we were focusing on having a nutrient-dense diet, she was still pretty deficient in things that we really needed to address, and I'm glad that we did before we got too far along with the pregnancy. So we'll keep scrolling down and look at some other things here. Just look at these amino acids here. And when you see this in a line right here, this shows us that it's a deficiency. So she's really low in a lot of amino acids, which makes sense. It's going to be on the lower end because she's making a baby, and babies are parasites. They are taking from the mom. So the mom really needs to make sure that she is getting the right nutrients and not just eating whatever. This shows that she needs a little bit more protein to fund those amino acids. So pretty much all across the board, these amino acids are pretty low. The cysteine here, which is a precursor to the main detoxifier in the body, glutathione. So we'll see a little bit later how that was also low. And we'll keep scrolling down, look at a few other labs. So these are the fatty acids, and everyone always says, like, you need more omega-3s, you need to get away from omega-6s because they're inflammatory. What it's really about is it's about balance. You want to get the right balance of fatty acids. So this 10.6 for omega-3s here is a really good number. You really want to be between 8 and 10 is kind of the ideal. You can be a little bit more. She was taking some cod liver oil, so that's why this EPA and DHA are so high. And we probably could have pumped that back a bit. Her omega-6s here at 31% are a little bit low for the way I like it. So we needed to increase the omega-6s a little more, and we also needed to decrease these saturated fats. This 41% is just a little bit too high. And this is the issue when you order your own labs and don't have someone who's experienced interpret them, is these ranges, the reference ranges, are just not quite accurate. They're not strict enough, and they're not within the right range. So this is why it's really important to have someone who knows what they're doing to show you this is really what you want to do. And we could start fixing a lot of the different fats she was eating based off of these labs. And then we'll scroll down to the last page here. Again, glutathione, the main detoxifier in the body, really low. And remember above, we saw that N-acetylcysteine was low, the precursor, one of the precursors to glutathione. So we really need to make sure that we're supporting that. That's super important. Our vitamin D was very good at 43. And so this copper, so I know it looks high, but it does increase. It can almost like triple when you get into pregnancy. It's still a bit higher than I think we would have liked, because copper can be a little inflammatory, but it's not bad. The zinc is certainly a little low here, this 81. And then the other thing is this magnesium here. So I love this above 50 at least. That's optimal. 43 is good, but it's not the best. And we had actually been supplementing with some magnesium and zinc. So as you can see, just because you're supplementing doesn't mean that you're in the range that you should be. And this is why it's really important to test where you're at and to test a few months later to make sure you're on progress. One of the few things that was really good, though, was all these heavy metals were really low. So she was not exposing our child to any heavy metals. So that was really fantastic to see that. But that's pretty much what these labs look like. And they're really important to get, again, if you are trying to conceive, if you are currently pregnant, or if you even just given birth, because if you're breastfeeding, again, the baby is taking away a lot of nutrients from you. And a lot of these nutrients are the precursors to a lot of neurotransmitters and hormones. So people who get like postpartum depression, think about it. If you're deficient in certain nutrients, like it's certainly going to affect the way that you create hormones and neurotransmitters that help govern your mood and how you feel. So we need to replenish a lot. And the way to do it is not just by going and buying a bunch of supplements. It's by getting testing and seeing what you need, fixing it through food first, and then if you're really deficient, that's when you start doing some targeted supplementation. But just getting some generic multivitamin or prenatal, it's just not going to cut it. And this is exactly what these labs showed, because we were doing some really good stuff, and even then she was still deficient. And we didn't have trouble getting pregnant. So just imagine what these levels will look like in someone who is struggling. The other thing to keep in mind too is it's not just about the women, but the men too. I mean, they're contributing a sperm, and that sperm needs to be healthy. So they also need to get their shit together, because a lot of infertility, I think the estimates are up to almost 30% is on the male. So it's not just the women. Women don't need to feel like that. It's all on them. A lot of times it isn't. It takes both, and you really need to make sure that you both are really on track. But yes, absolutely. Everybody should be getting labs like these if you're looking to get pregnant, currently pregnant, or have just given birth. It's a fantastic test. And I hope you guys really got a lot out of this, and I hope you guys are really taking this seriously, because it's super important.